So, I want to learn y'all something today. My Propel. I'm a big fan of selling new construction real estate. That's what my team and I do. My name is Zach. That's what we specialize here in the DFW marketplace. We help tons of people every single year get into new homes, build new homes, buy from builders inventory, all of those things. And in doing that, there's probably a handful of different scenarios that I would look at and say, hey, personally, I probably wouldn't buy that particular thing when it comes to new construction. So I want to talk you through a few of them. Some of them are bigger pain points, to be honest, for me than others. Some of them are like, it would be a consideration. Others I'm like, I would fight to the death to not do that thing. So I want to talk you through a few of them, and hopefully this is helpful as you're thinking, hey, maybe new construction's a fit for me, maybe it's not. Here's the ones that I would say, if we're honest, I would probably avoid. So number uno, this is a possibly avoid, but this is not a, like, I'm adamantly dead set against it. So this is my first one. I would not look at buying, let's call it the home that has the Supermodel package. And what I mean by this is it's a home that was on a builder's inventory, or it was a home that busted and they have like over upgraded this home. It's got all the crazy stuff that everything they could want to possibly do in a home, they've done it, and it exists in this house and it's priced accordingly. I would be kind of leery of that. Like I said, this is kind of like a little apprehensive moment for me, just because I think, one, you're having to finance all of those costs, right? So that's first and foremost, you're rolling that into the cost of your financing. Two, there's probably some of those things that could be done cheaper through a third party. Again, reminder, builders are in this to make money. And there are certain things within builds that are profit centers that make them more money. There are certain things they can't control that are charged based on how their subcontractors charge them. But I would not want the home that had like every single upgrade that a builder offered. I just don't know that it's going to, I don't know that it's going to appraise. B, I don't know that it's going to I don't know that I want to finance all of that. So I would kind of struggle with that in that space. And along the same lines, I don't know that I would do it or I wouldn't do it, but I would be leery of, unless you were getting a really good deal, and B, you were able to get it inspected, which I recommend always. I don't know that I would buy a model home. I know a lot of people have, and I've helped clients buy model homes before. And my challenge with this is, one, on the plus side, you're getting almost every feature that you could want in a home. The builder has used this home to, show off their abilities, to show off their skills, to show off the things that they offer. So you're getting a lot of different options. But two, and this is the kind of the part for me, is there's been a ton of freaking people walking through that house. I don't know, that's more of a personal preference. It feels kind of weird to me. People are walking through the house all the time and it feels weird. But three, model homes are usually one of the fastest built homes in the neighborhood. Builders don't like to be selling out of construction trailers. They don't like to be selling from other communities because it hurts their sales, especially if there's other builders within that neighborhood. It's like a competition. And so those homes can get built super quick. And along the same lines, you don't want to be the most expensive home, or you don't want to be the cheapest home in the neighborhood. I was in a neighborhood yesterday with some clients, and the sign was like, hey, we have homes from 400 to like over $1 million. And that's a very, very wide range. I was like, I would not want to be, I wouldn't buy $1 million house, but I would not want to be the $1 million side on that. I would want to be somewhere kind of in the middle of the pack. A good rough rule of thumb that I like to use is somewhere between 12 and 15% of base price is what your upgrade structure and things like that should be. Maybe a little higher, maybe 16, 17, but realistically, somewhere between 12 and 15% of base should probably be where you get to on your upgrade. So if you start looking at a builder's inventory, and of course, that's a little skewed based on when they started it, because those starting prices have probably gone up since they started that home. I would just kind of look at it and be like, maybe. But yeah, something that's over upgraded or a model would be on my list of like, ask the question before you buy it. The second thing I would consider of a home that I would, this kind of gets a little bit stronger, is buying in a useless HOA. Now, I will say most 90% of new construction stuff has some sort of HOA attached to it. It varies by community, it varies by price, and it varies by amenities. So like if you're wanting, so this is what I mean by useless HOA. Like if you know that you are not going to use the pool and the dog track and the walking trail and the yoga park and the bowling alley and all in the garden, and you're not going to use that, but it's going to cost you $1,200 to $1,500 a year. I wouldn't buy there unless you were considering the resale value and you think that it's going to help you sell down the road, which it might. Also, if you know you're not going to use those and you know it's going to be $1,500 a year, I wouldn't spend the money. I mean, I would find a smaller, cheaper HOA that has less amenities that you're probably going to use. The second thing is I would drive around the neighborhood and look at what kind of enforcement the HOA is doing. Now, we don't want them to be crazy, right? Like I'm not advocating for crazy HOAs, but what I am advocating for is if I'm spending $4,000 to $1,000 a year and people aren't keeping their yards clean, what am I paying for, right? Like, so if you drive around the neighborhood and you see like way overgrown yards and tons of dead trees and like just like, you know, cars that are parked in weird places and everybody's got their boat and RV and it's crowded. And it's like, what are y'all enforcing the rules? That's kind of more what I mean about a useless HOA. So drive around the neighborhood, get a feel for that. And again, don't spend money on amenities that you're not going to use. If you're going to use them, great. Like pay for them. I have clients on all ends of the spectrum. They're like, hey, we don't care about the HOA. We have to do something because we know we want new and there's going to be a little bit of an HOA. And then I have other clients that are like, no, we have to have a lap pool and a dog yoga park. And I'm like, okay, cool. Like we'll find it. But you're going to pay for it and it's going to cost you accordingly. So just use your noggin and kind of pay attention. Drive around the HOA before you say yes to building in that community. Number 3, I would be a little bit hesitant. This is not a hard no for me, but this is a proceed with caution. Anytime a builder rolls out a new set of floor plans and you might be the first one to build it in that community, I would be a little worried because you can always see the drawings and you can see like, hey, this is like what it might look like. But until you can conceptualize that home, it's super hard, right? And you just might be like, oh, I'm looking at the floor plan. I think this is what it's supposed to look like. But if you haven't walked it, it's really, really hard. So again, this is like a proceed with caution for me. This is not like a hard no, proceed with caution on this one. I would start asking the question like, hey, because a lot of times builders carry the same floor plan across multiple communities. And so even if this is like a new to this community, ask them and say, hey, can you find me this home in another community? Like, I just want to go, like, even if it's sold, I don't care. As long as somebody hadn't moved in, I want to go walk it and I want to get a feel for it. Also, if you find one, like if a lot of times you find that the model homes are the most popular plans in a community, ask them to walk one that's not a model because you want to see that floor plan without all the bells and whistles. So I would strongly recommend not buying something without having at least a walkthrough of that floor plan. And now if it's a brand new to the builder and they're like, hey, we're just rolling this out, I would ask a lot of questions because in those plans, they're trying to perfect things and they're trying to get them right. And so there may be things that they're still missing, right? There may be things that they haven't quite figured out on that floor plan that they have to change. So just ask questions, ask them if you can walk it in another neighborhood, ask them for something that's the most similar and say, hey, can you tell me what's different? But I would be a little worried about building something that was a brand new floor plan and being first without having the ability to put my eyes on it and stand in that house before I could do that. This one is a little bit harder to tell. There's some signs and indicators maybe, but this is kind of like hey, watch out for the builder that's about to go bankrupt. And I'm like, and you're like, Zach, how do you know that they're about to go bankrupt? You don't. But if they are a, potentially publicly traded company, you can watch their stocks. If you come into a neighborhood and you see that they have just tons and tons of inventory on the ground and things aren't moving, and it's like, oh, that feels weird. Like, you can, it's hard to tell, but you might be able to see signs and indicators because the challenge is if the builder goes bankrupt, nobody's holding that warranty anymore. Like there's nobody to claim on the warranty. There's nobody to say, hey, y'all messed this up and you should fix it. So just read your reviews, look online, ask your realtor, ask around, ask questions, ask the salesperson. Obviously, the salesperson's not going to know if they're going bankrupt because that means they're losing their job. But like if they're like, hey, were you hearing any weird rumblings about things that are going on? Just go fishing, see what they'll tell you. Next one, and this gets into a little bit more like hard. This gets into a little bit more hard stance for me. This one is if they make it difficult for you to get an inspection or they make it difficult for you to have representation, I would seriously consider looking at something different. We want you to have, I always tell you, hey, I don't care if it's 300,000, 3 million or anything in between. please do your due diligence and get the home inspected. If you're building from the ground up, do your due diligence and have multiple phase inspections. I don't care who the builder is. And so if the builder starts making that difficult and it's like, oh, hey, we don't do this inspection or we require to do that, like, just when the red flag goes up, just start looking. Or if they start saying things like, hey, if you don't have representation, we'll give you more money to close the deal. Red flag, big red flag. You should want to have representation for yourself in this transaction. Because to be honest, most builders pay real estate agents out of totally separate budgets that are not tied to the house. And they budget as more or less a marketing expense for you to have representation. So at any point that they start telling you, hey, like, you know, we can get you a better deal without it, run. Like, I can't say that enough. Run. And again, I don't even care if you use me. Like, use somebody, but make sure they know what they're doing in the new construction space. And so if they make those two things difficult, I wouldn't do it. I just wouldn't do it. The next one, if you go into a neighborhood and one singular builder has a monopoly on the development, meaning there is no competition, I would consider something different. Because here's the thing, competition makes the market healthy. Competition is what has builders looking at each other and saying, oh, this is what they're doing. Oh, well, we haven't sold anything. Well, we need to do this to match this. Oh, they changed their standard features. Oh, we need to be better. Competition is healthy for the consumer. And so any of these developments that you're like, oh, there's like one builder and there's no competition, I would start asking questions and I would start wondering, I wonder why that is. Why, like, maybe they're keeping things out. Maybe they don't want to share everything. Maybe they're hiding things. Maybe they, whatever. All right. We're deep enough into the video. People have probably turned it off. I'm going to be super clear about this. I would run away on this one for any builder whose name rhymes with Shmamar, them. I would run as fast as I possibly could. I would not buy it. I just don't believe in that product. You can find them as a large production builder. And oftentimes, here's the challenge, and this is what's hard for me. Oftentimes, for a first-time home buyer, they feel like they're the most affordable, and they are. They can be the cheapest, but the cheapest comes at a price. And we'll leave it at that. So I would run far, far away from that one. Secondarily to that, I would run away in general from a production builder that is multi-stated. There are some, give a caveat, there are some builders that are fairly large that build a really good product. And I'm not discounting. I've sold several homes for several different builders that are multi-stated in several states and build a really good product. However, I have found that the ones that we like to do business with are those ones that are Texas locals, the ones that have a very big presence here and that they're growing. They understand the economics here. They understand the buyer demographic. They understand the soil composition, which is a big deal here in North Texas. They're building houses that make sense for what's here. They're not always the cheapest, but I feel like the experience is better. And so I would be cautionary when you're looking at some of these big box builders that are trying to push out 50, 60, 70, 80, 100,000 homes a year. I would use some serious caution. Okay, that was a lot. The main thing is I want you as the consumer to feel like you are getting a quality product. Feel like you're spending a ton of money. Like, even if you're a first-time home buyer, you're spending a ton of money, and it should make sense, and it should be quality, and you should be able to enjoy it with your family. So yeah, check the HOA. Don't buy the most expensive one. Maybe don't be the first of a new plan. Watch out for the large builders. Anything that is not built on site, probably wouldn't build that. If I can help you on any of these things, if you have questions, our team, again, we would love to be of any assistance that we can helping you buy real estate here in DFW. Our contact information, we always put it at the bottom of these videos, and it's in the description down below. If you have questions, leave them in the comments. Try to respond to as many of those as we can. So we're here to help, and at the end of the day, that's ultimately what we want to do. So thanks for hanging out. Appreciate your time. I hope this was helpful. If you have questions, like I said, leave them down below. We like to get to those any way we can. We will see you guys for the next one. Bye for now.